all the 4 sets of pillars, each representing an element and thus a corresponding elemental spirit, have been cleared. The fragments of the keys to unlocking each island have all been brought back together. There are however 2 more pedestals left for you to explore, one representing the Almighty and one representing Orgodemir. You visited the Divine Shrine before, a remnant of a monument to the Almighty and his Order's greatness that lost its power long ago. It used to be a flying complex of different shrines, but now only 2 are left afloat while the rest fell out, and even those 2 won't keep floating for long. So the first great pedestal allows you to restore the shrine to its former glory by traveling to the past. You don't however go to a time before it ever fell from grace, but instead you only go back to after parts of it started falling off. It looks barely different from the present day shrine. You can't prevent its destruction, but since the holy power still lingers, the restoration is much easier and you only need to offer up the sacred stone from the Aeolus Vale event. To reach the place where you need to offer it up, you need to go through an underwater dungeon you also had to traverse in the present. In a lot of games, underwater dungeons are a staple that's just thrown in there alongside the other element-themed dungeons. But what stands out in Unquenched 7 is that fire in dungeons harms you, and you need to get another NPC to help you get through the wind dungeon. The dungeon with the water spirit, however, didn't include water, and there are multiple underwater dungeons that you traverse without issue. The same goes for overworld travels. Mountains or reefs are what stops your progress, but water is easily traversed. Water is easy for you. Water is your home turf. You are a fisherman's son after all. Water here in this dungeon is what leads you to the place that is closest to the Almighty. And water in general is what connects you to the Almighty. You are blessed by the water spirit, and this at all allows you to go on this adventure through all the boons it grants you. For example, it's why you see those visions, but more on those after clearing the second pedestal. For now, you're only done with the first one though. So the other shrines fly back up, and in the present over many years a miracle happened. There's a floating magical Skystone that just appeared in the middle of the shrines one day. The Skystone is made out of prayers and human life. It's not a miracle made by the Almighty. Again, the Almighty isn't that different from humans. They too can create miracles. The Skystone is of course a rock, yet somehow it is just as alive as Ramia, the most iconic way of flying in the Dragon Quest series. If you remember the Faraday or El Circolo event, those focus on the soul of man-made things, and the Skystone can be seen as a collective creation. And unlike the unalive carpet you've been using to fly up until now, it isn't listed as an item but follows your orders and wherever you zoom alongside your party. And with that you can now visit a few new locations, one of which features an NPC named the Gnostic who uses the default monster disguised as human sprite and gives you a fragment to a new tablet. Oh god, I'm excited to do the Gnosticism video. This new tablet is found in the dig site from the El Ballad event, where the researchers dug too deep and uncovered vicious monsters that killed most of them. These stem from the last pedestal, the Malign Shrine, Orgodemir's equivalent to what the Divine Shrine is to the Almighty. When you enter it, you see a cutscene depicting something you've only heard about so far, the final showdown between the Almighty and Orgodemir. The Almighty at first is depicted as only a light who seals Mervyn away in that stone. This depiction of God as light is nothing strange. Divine light or radiance to depict God symbolically only makes sense since thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image. But when he attacks Orgodemir, he briefly has a physical form, and it's implied that this physical form makes him stronger, meaning the metaphysical power of the Almighty is not that strong and he's starting to sound very similar to a human again. Orgodemir also talks about taking the Almighty's life, implying he is mortal. What's also interesting is that stories in the present told how the Almighty destroyed Orgodemir with his powerful attack but was left exhausted. Instead, it's the other way around, and the Almighty is destroyed by Orgodemir. He now resides at the end of a dungeon that would be worthy of being the final one, and sits in a room that looks eerily similar to the ones where you fought the last 3 final bosses in mainline Dragon Quest games. Orgodemir has 2 phases, the pretty exterior and the vile inside that escapes him. He's weakened quite a bit so you can take him down, yet he spouts something about darkness persisting. Who knows what that's about, but when you return to the present, it really seems like the game might just be over. Everyone knows that the world just feels right and at peace. You save the world. Something interesting that is played as a gag is that your Uncle Pike thinks that he was the one who fought Orgodemir, since he saw a dream of the battle. This is similar to your own visions, for example with Shark Eye, and is explained as him being linked to others with the same blood. That doesn't explain how you were able to see visions of Mordor or the people of Regenstein, but I believe the point here is that blood relations do exist, but all humans are children of God. They weren't created directly by the Almighty, and yet their brothers and sisters aligned with light and can thus connect. Maybe Pike could see even more visions if he wasn't such an outcast. It also seems like your coming of age is over and you're finally being spoken to like an adult. Your hometown has stayed mostly the same, but everyone's horizons have been expanded so much and they acknowledge how much you've done. Maribel for one started behaving and has really matured. Not because of the adventure, but instead because she cares for her family and doesn't want to worry her dad. At times, Unquenched 7 seems anti-traditionalist and pro-progress. It makes the point that human curiosity can't be contained, especially not that of a child, and the adults saying that there has never been anything beyond the island of Estad, so there is no point looking, they've been proven wrong. But that doesn't mean that the game is against tradition for the sake of it being tradition. When Kiefer has to leave his family, that's that, and there's nothing holy about family that needs to be honored at all cost. But Maribel spending time with her family is still framed as important. Family is important, but not because family is inherently holy, but because relationships are a good thing, and you tend to have ones with your family. Maribel for one doesn't have any other healthy relationships, so for her it's especially important to stay connected to her family. And even if the people on the island were wrong about the world, even if they try to keep you from exploring, that doesn't mean they don't welcome you back regardless, and it doesn't mean that you harbor any bad feelings at all. Everyone is happy to have you back, and happy to simply be. Yet this seemingly perfect present day is still God-forsaken. Time travel isn't a get-out-of-jail-free card that prevents any harm from ever being done. Just like how you restored the destroyed divine shrine instead of preventing its destruction, you couldn't prevent the Almighty from being destroyed. So now the objective is to revive the Almighty, this time for real. Maybe. And at this point you're no longer sneaking out, but instead being sent off by the king, just like how a Unquenched game should have started.